this way on the railroad.
Yeah. My patriarchal ancestor, Lawrence Rutherford, founded our town. Anyone see the resemblance?
Vous êtes jamais à court de conneries, vous, en fait, hein? C'est fascinant.
From an American epic of slavery and resistance to the comedy crime show that's taking France by storm, we're looking at some of the best new series hitting streaming services this month. And joining me in the studio to talk about them is Alison Sargent. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Olivia.
Now, we're starting with one of this year's most anticipated show, the adaptation of Colson Whitehead's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Underground Railroad. I must say, I'm very excited about this one.
And you should be, Olivia. I don't think anyone is going to be disappointed by this show. It comes out this week on Amazon Prime, and it's being heralded as the most ambitious series to tackle American slavery since Roots came out in the 1970s. The novel is brought to life by Barry Jenkins, the award-winning director of Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. Now, for those not familiar with the book, it tells the story of Cora, who runs away from a plantation in Georgia by taking the Underground Railroad, which in real life was a network of people that helped slaves run away up north. But in the book, it's an actual railroad built underground. Now, Cora is being aggressively pursued by a slave catcher named Ridgway, who is especially determined to find her because her mother, who ran away when Cora was just a child, is the only slave that ever got away from him. Cora is played with incredible force by South African actress Thuso Mbedu. The rest of the cast is fantastic as well. Let's take a look.
Here I saw a dappled wonder settling across the fields, hovering on angel wings, brandishing a blazing shield.
Where do they go? The ones that run away and never return. There is nothing here but suffering, pain and suffering. It is time to go.
Stories like this are always really tough for me to read. It's not about like bemoaning suffering and all that stuff. It's just more about the journey.
Girl in that bulletin is wanted for the murder of a child.
Man lost my mom, then me. Ain't no way he ever given up on finding me.
Now, these are really quite hard stories to tell, and I heard that director Barry Jenkins actually considered abandoning the project because he was concerned that people didn't want to see a story that was so focused on black suffering.
Yeah, that's been a major conversation in the US, and Barry Jenkins told the New York Times that he actually decided to move forward with the project after Amazon conducted a focus group with black residents from Atlanta. They were asked whether the show should be made at all, and only 10% of people said that it shouldn't be done. Is the show hard to watch? Yes, but the brutality is wrapped up in so much beauty. Jenkins is just masterful with light and color. He's also added black characters that aren't in the book, so we have these pockets of joy and comfort as Cora interacts with them. There's a line from the show where one of the characters says to a poet, "If I gave you my sorrows, would you make them sound pretty?" And in a way, that's exactly what this show does.
Indeed, and a little bit what Barry Jenkins does with that film that you mentioned, Moonlight, as well. Now, the next show we're going to talk about couldn't have a more different tone. This is a total feel-good comedy. It also deals with questions of American history and legacy, though.
That's right, it's called Rutherford Falls. It came out in April on the US streaming platform Peacock. It takes place in the fictional small town of Rutherford Falls and centers around a proud descendant of the town's founder, Nathan Rutherford, and his best friend, Regan, who runs the cultural center for the local native tribe, the also fictional Minnetonka. The plot kicks off when the mayor decides to move a statue of the town's founder, not because he was a colonial white guy, but simply because it's a traffic hazard. Now, the showrunner is Navajo screenwriter Sierra Teller Ornelas. She created the show along with Ed Helms, who stars as Nathan Rutherford, and Michael Schur, who's known for his work on The Office and Parks and Recreation.
Indeed, and much like those shows, Rutherford Falls features a lot of warm-hearted humour. Let's take a look.
I'm gonna get this town on my side. Yes.
And I'm gonna transform my cultural center.
Yes.
This town has forgotten how to honor their ancestors.
Can we focus on the problems that are actually important?
Well, Big Larry's important.
More important than the opioid crisis.
Apples and oranges, Carla.
There's something happening in that town. This is a story about stories.
Damn. The podcasting voice is very manipulative.
Now, an interesting detail that sets this sitcom apart from other shows is that half of the writers are Native Americans.
Yeah, 5 of the show's 10 writers are Native Americans. The majority, or much of the cast, is also made up of Native actors. There's Regan, of course, played by Jana Schmieding, and then one of my favorite characters is the casino manager, Terry, played by Michael Greyeyes. Now, Native Americans are by no means a monolithic group. There are over 500 different tribes in the U.S., but the show has been really well received by Native critics from all different tribes who say that it really captures the shared aspects of the Native experience.
Now, Alison, you actually spoke to journalist and film critic Shea Vassar, a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Let's hear what resonated with her about the show.
Native people are funny. Like there is a really great sense of humor in all of our communities.
But nobody wants to help my cultural center.
The only Native artifacts in here are those bangs.
A lot of the television we have today, it shows Native characters from any tribe or any kind of background, but they're set in a historical past. And that's not where we exist. So it was so nice to see modern Native characters and just doing everyday things and being Native and doing those things.
Now, Rutherford Falls is my favorite new comedy, but I also wanted to talk about 2 others that also are coming out from Peacock and are about female musical groups. Girls 5 Eva is about a Spice Girls-like 90s pop group that decides to try and make a comeback several decades later. Tina Fey is one of the producers, and it stars singer-songwriter Sarah Bareilles and has some very catchy and fun music. And then We Are Lady Parts is about an all-female Muslim punk band in the UK. It's created by Nida Manzoor for Channel 4 and for Peacock in the US.
Okay, Tina Fey and young girls, definitely a winning, hilarious formula, I'm sure. Now, next we're going to talk about France's latest TV phenomenon. This is a comedy crime show starring actress Audrey Fleurot.
Right, and fans of French television will recognize Audrey Fleurot from the series Spiral. She also plays herself on an episode of Call My Agent. This show is from French station TF1. It's called HPI, which is the French acronym for High Intellectual Potential. That's because Fleurot's character, Morgane Alvaro, is a genius with an IQ of 160. She's also a single mom managing 3 kids and working as a cleaning lady when the series starts, but she accidentally solves a crime and gets recruited as a consultant by the police. Let's take a look.
Votre victime était rasé de près et il sortait de chez le coiffeur. Une demi-heure avant de mourir, son cœur s'emballe. Orgasme.
Vous êtes jamais à court de conneries, vous, en fait, hein? C'est fascinant.
Coucou, j'ai découvert un truc.
Mais vous vous êtes cru où, ici, en fait, dans une garderie? C'est la PJ de Lille, ici! C'est excitant.
Dis-moi que cette enquête se termine.
Now, I heard that this show has been getting bigger audiences than when Paris played in the Champions League final. Some 10 million people have been tuning in to watch each episode. So what is it that people love so much?
Well, Fleurot's character, Morgane Alvaro, is one of those loudmouth characters that could be annoying, but is actually just so extremely endearing, in part because of the charm of Audrey Fleurot, but also because she's someone who struggles, who's a bit of an outsider. There's a scene where she's maneuvering a shopping cart on and off a bus with her 3 kids, and everyone on the bus is giving them these horrible, judgmental looks. So you really want to root for her, and it's satisfying to see her defy people's expectations and just be unapologetically herself. There's also a pretty good love-hate chemistry between Fleurot and her surly police partner, who's played by Mehdi Nebou. I also found it nice to just be watching a fun and somewhat formulaic crime show. Unfortunately, it does not yet have an international release date, but it has already been renewed for a season 2 here in France, so I imagine it will be coming out elsewhere sometime soon.
Subtitles probably feature in its future, I should imagine. Now, finally, we're going to end with a little-known comedy series that's doing quite well for itself, Friends. I'm not referring to the sitcom event of the 1990s, of course, but a comeback from that same gang. It seems that the Central Perk is opening for business again.
That's right, Olivia. For one magical episode, the entire cast will be back. Now, this reunion has been in the works for a long time. It was supposed to be filmed over a year ago, but then kept getting delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic. HBO Max has finally announced the release date, so mark your calendars, May 27th. They've also announced an impressive list of celebrity guests, including footballer David Beckham and education rights icon Malala Yousafzai.
I bet they're fans of Friends. I should imagine that's how they got in. Thank you so much for that heads up, Alison. We'll leave you with a look at the teaser for that Friends reunion. Otherwise, you can get more arts and culture on our website and on our social media channels too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.